Thank you, Neil. Hello, everyone. That was nice, thank you. I am honored beyond words to speak tonight, even more so now that I've spoken to so many of you. You're just so wonderful, all of you. I don't think of myself as a public speaker. I don't think of myself as an all-star either. So the first thing I should do is clear up why I'm an all-star. And that is because at Disney, I was a front desk manager at Disney's All-Star Resort. Makes me an all-star. Yeah. A fact about, I'm skipping ahead. When I first started at Walt Disney World, I worked in the monorail department, and I spent 2 years there, and that was just enough time for me to realize I needed some better job opportunities. Now, a fact about Florida, this is a true fact, I don't know if you know it, but I've experienced it myself. Florida is really hot. So let me be truthful, I say better job opportunities, but what I actually mean is I needed some air conditioning. So I moved to concierge at Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa because it was indoors. And it was wonderful. I ended up really loving it so much that I became a manager and got moved to the Disney All-Star Front Desk Management Team. Disney is where I have most of my ALS story taking place. Like one day I walked up to the monorail station and one of my coworkers said, "Girl, I love your swagger." And I said, "That is so sweet. What's a swagger?" And he explained it's the way you walk, the way you carry yourself. The only thing I've ever been told about my walk was that I should walk more like a lady. So my masculine walking days were behind me, and I swaggered away happily, not knowing that it was the start of something terrible. I was at Epcot during the Food and Wine Festival, and I realized there that I couldn't walk and laugh at the same time, which I thought was hilarious. I kept laughing, so as I stood there laughing, I had no idea something terrible was coming. At Disney All-Star Resort is where I started to fall down a lot. I blamed the new carpet. It's also where I got another comment about my walk. You walk like Dan Brady. It didn't feel like a compliment that time, but I did start to suspect something may not be right with me. And that is what started 4 years. I had about 4 years into a 5-year diagnosis when, you gotta wait for me when I lose my spot, I'm sorry. It was my manager and mentor. There she is, there's a picture of her. And she said, maybe this is ALS. And I said, nope, you are wrong. Now, she's normally right about things, but not this time. My doctor had just told me if it's ALS, it would be in your upper body, and it's just in your lower. A year later, same manager I got to go to and said, it's now weaker up in the top, and it is indeed ALS. And she said, I don't like being right this time. Now, I've been told some of you here aren't aware of what ALS is exactly. So I'm going to give you the fastest education ever. ALS stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is why we call it ALS. It's also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, and as the millennials know it nowadays, they call it the ice bucket disease, which I like. It's a rapidly progressing neurological disease. ALS attacks you at your motor neurons. And your motor neurons, if they don't work, your muscles don't move. And when your muscles don't move, they get weak, and then they stop working. I tell children that it's like cell phones. So you're using a cell phone. Your brain has a cell phone, and your muscles have a cell phone. Your brain speaks really well, and your muscles can hear just fine, but the satellite in the sky that connects them is broken. So there's no messages getting through. So, so your brain is going, move! And your muscles are like, move. It's dinner time. Don't I normally get calls around dinner time? So diagnosing ALS is also very difficult. That's why it took me 5 years. There isn't a specific test. It's really a process of elimination. My journey had numerous tests, including a nerve test, and that's where they put a needle into your nerve and give you a little bit of electricity shock in there. Lots of fun. And I also had surgery to look at my muscles. If you're curious, they look moth-eaten. That was the scientific term they used. And I had a spinal tap done. They now call the spinal tap a lumbar puncture. But let me tell you that a spinal tap by any other name hurts just as sweetly. ALS also manifests differently in different people. I've met people living with ALS, and the ALS started in their upper body. I've met some it started in their mouth. So it's very difficult to figure out if someone actually has it or not. Mine started here with my feet, and they're now working their way up. So it takes a really long time to get a diagnosis. Time is the one thing that people with ALS don't have. ALS is a rapidly progressing neurological disease. Once someone is diagnosed, on average, it takes 2 to 5 years from diagnosis until death. And that's because your diaphragm is controlled by motor neurons. Once it doesn't work, it's impossible to breathe. It causes suffocation, and then it causes death. I really need you to understand how terrible this disease is. But we're also here for a good time, so let me lighten it a little bit. So I had a pastor, and this pastor said we should not use the word suck because there is an implication as to what you may be sucking. So let me be very specific here. That's right. Having ALS, it sucks. Dirty, hairy, stinky toes. And you know what else? It blows. It blows chunks. It isn't just a death sentence. Every day, something is worse. Something else has stopped working. We will go completely paralyzed. We won't be able to move. Our minds are going to function perfectly, but we are going to be trapped inside our bodies. There are rare cases of ALS that move slower than average. I have one of these cases, and I tell you that because what I went through, everything I'm about to tell you, I've had 8 years to go through it. Most people get 2 to 5. For me, I was thrust into a world of questions, insecurities, and fear. I decided to list some for you. There they are. So let me just go over a few of these. And please note, this is just a few of the first questions I had. People living with ALS have new questions and new problems every day. This many questions floating around in my head. I don't know about you, but I'm guessing if you had this many questions floating around in your head, those aren't questions. That's an anxiety attack. So let's talk just about a few of these. Will my personality change? And how do I handle all these changing emotions? My personality, it did change. And at one point, I hated the person I had become. So I had to put in a lot of work to change all of the bad behaviors and thought processes I had in my head. That's something that happens to us. Our emotions change our whole personality. My changing emotions feel like a roller coaster ride. It's Woo, it's a mess. Have you ever been on a roller coaster and you wandered off? Yeah, roller coasters are like 3 minutes long. I've been on that roller coaster for 8 years. So another question is, do I smell? It seems like a silly question, but I had reached a point where I couldn't safely shower. And I went without for months at a time until I frankly couldn't stand myself anymore. And then I would get a roommate to get me in and out of the shower, which was very dangerous and embarrassing. I tried to stay as clean as possible, but I was always paranoid there was a smell. So I told my friends and my coworkers, I'm having trouble at home and I really need to know if I look kind of gross or if I'm stinky in any way. And I've learned the hard way, your friends and coworkers will not tell you if you smell bad. It's kind of sweet of them. You know who will tell you is a stranger will be happy to tell you you don't smell good. We take being clean for granted. What happens when you can't? Luckily, I have the Joe Martin ALS Foundation, and that includes Lynn. Lynn, would you stand for me? I'm gonna make you stand. And I'm gonna ask that all the other caregivers that go into our homes, we have 2 more tonight, if you would also stand. These are the people that come to our homes and make our lives easier. I can't reach my bum. So Lynn cleans it for me every Thursday and Monday. We cannot apply them enough. They are everything to us. And just a thank you from me. Thank you for coming to our homes and for becoming our friends and becoming our family. Really appreciate you. Money. It's always a problem, isn't it? It's always something with money. I knew that when I had ALS, I was going to need a car with a ramp. Now, I had a car just a few years old, and it was brand new. I loved it. It cost me $17,000. So now I'm looking for a van with a ramp. It was $75,000. Another example is I went to see a friend in New Jersey recently, and 2 other friends went as well. They got a promotion for a car rental, and they didn't have to pay anything. I got quoted $1,000 to get a ride to and from the airport. I eventually got them down to $600. So this is what I suggest. If you do not have a lot of money, I would suggest getting a helmet, some safety equipment, because you have to be rich, unfortunately, to be in a wheelchair. Now for the most important question. How can someone have this many terrible things happening and they are still on the stage smiling? How can anyone be happy knowing what the future has to hold? I was nervous to give this speech, not the talking part. I like a microphone, and I kind of like it. You have to listen to everything I say. No, I was nervous because this next part is so important. And it's not just for those of us with ALS. There's a list at your seats, and it's a way to stay uplifted in down times. I'm going to talk just about 2 of them, but I encourage you to go through this list and find something that works for you, something that will ignite your spark. There's 2 tips that I had the most trouble accepting, and I'm going to go through those. The first one is, it's okay to be sad. This might seem a little counterproductive to this entire talk, but it's not. It's very important. I got so good at seeing the bright side of things and pushing myself to make everything seem okay that I skipped a really important step. Humans, we need the sad and the bad and the ugly. We need it because we have to have something to compare to the happy and the good and the beautiful. We aren't robots that can turn our emotions off and on. We have the happy and the bad. When I got so good at turning on the happy and ignoring the bad, I reached a point where not experiencing that sad, not mourning my losses, it started to come out in unexpected ways. And it's called toxic positivity. For me, it manifested as uncontrolled crying at the worst times, like with meetings with my boss. It's very embarrassing. Oh, I'm losing my notebook. So please don't do what I did. It's okay to be sad, to mourn your loss, mourn the loss of your body. Be sad you have ALS and everything that comes with it. But don't stay sad. For me, having ALS is living a dual life like a coin. So on one side, I'm dying, and that sucks. Big, hairy, stinky toes. But on the other side, I am happy, and I'm alive with life, and I love living, and I love spreading joy. On one side, I can't walk. On the other side of that coin, I have this spiffy chair that actually creates like a bubble, a personal bubble of safety. It's an added bonus. It's very nice. And isn't that just how life is? It's the entire coin. You have the good and the bad. But what's neat is how you see life. It all depends on which side of the coin you leave up. Leave the good side up. My last tip tonight is to have support. No one can do it alone. And needing support is why we're here tonight. Let's look at my questions again, please. The question of where I will live, it was answered immediately. I called my mom after I was diagnosed, as one does, and my stepfather, oh, I'm gonna cry. My stepfather took the phone. He said, "This is your home. When it gets tough, you come home." My friends, all who I moved away from, they all get together and come see me, which is amazing. My Uncle David is here tonight, and he makes sure I get out every so often and have a good time, get a bite to eat, have good conversations. And my mom, she does everything, everything for me. Including washing my bum. I don't want you to think I don't have a clean bum all week. She does. She does do the other 5 days. So please know that. Let me start over. You've all been told now that Joe Martin ALS, what it does, what they do as work goes. But let me show you now what Joe Martin ALS Foundation actually does for me and over 100 other families that they're helping. This is what they do. All crossed off. Foundation is not the right word. It should be called the Joe Martin ALS Lifeline. That's what they do. They're a lifeline. Before Joe Martin ALS Foundation, my life was a ball of anxiety. It was questions, answers. Now with the Joe Martin ALS Society, I'm able to take trips to see friends. I'm able to do crafts of. In fact, there are paintings out on the table you can look at. I have time to do good things for others. Without Joe Martin ALS Foundation, I wouldn't have life. Sure, I'd still be alive, but I'd just be constantly searching for answers to these seemingly impossible questions. I'd be miserable. All right, so that same pastor that said we should be careful with what words we use, he also said, you don't help others by saying, tell me if you need something, or hey, let me know if I can help. That's not how you help. You help by showing up with what someone needs. You show up with a meal, with a shoulder to cry on. You show up with a babysitter, whatever is needed. You show up and you take action. That's what the Joe Martin ALS Foundation did. They didn't wait for someone to say, hey, I need help. They stepped up and they said, I am going to help. And tonight they need our help. Please, if you have the means, would you please consider stepping up and taking action? Take action to help this wonderful foundation so they can continue to give people just like me a life worth living. It's time to give up the microphone, which is fine. I'm a little bit clipped. But please don't forget the list that you have on the table. It's right there for you. I hope you find something that works for you. If anyone has questions, please come talk to me. I'm not a great small talker, but I do love to talk, so come find me. And then I just ask that you never stop looking for your spark of positivity. It's out there. Thank you all so much for your attention and your kindness. Please know every single one of you is worthy of love. Thank you. Thank you.